Alright, welcome back everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. As you're walking in, you probably noticed that there's a question up on the screen that says, what is education? You guys have been doing it for 11 years now, but let's go ahead and think about what education actually is. In just one sentence, I want you to write down a definition of education. Give you a few seconds for that. Thumbs up when you're ready. Everybody good? Okay. So what I want you guys to do now is, I think you're all pretty much close enough. Let's try to center in a little bit if we can. If not, I think you guys can probably talk to each other. But I want you to take all of your sentences and kind of combine it into one thought. And I want one good sentence from your guys' combined thoughts of what education is.
So I said acquired learning every time.
Sorry.
Oh, I had that one too. And then I added to it.
Good. That was a tough one.
So I said acquired learning over time. Anybody else said?
I said education is learning big knowledge.
So.
I said it's a process that you go through to enrich your knowledge.
Ooh, you went in depth. What'd you say?
Learning to be better prepared for the future.
I like the process.
So learning as a process. Does somebody have that?
Education is a process of learning and growing. I like that. Or,
You can go ahead and say it, John.
That's pretty good.
Speak for the whole group, man.
Education is, does that go with everyone?
Yeah.
Education is the process of learning and growing.
Process of learning and growing. Okay. Yeah. So was that kind of a hard question to answer, even though you think maybe you've been doing it for the last 11 years? You get up every morning, mom wakes you up, and you go and do it. But was that kind of a harder question to answer when you actually had to think about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you think about how education has maybe changed. You're used to what you've been doing, but maybe it's changed over the years. Okay. So education has changed, and we've been talking about the progressive era in the Pacific Northwest, and we talked about the grassroots democracy. But now there's the education piece to the progressive era. And whoops, what happened? So before that, there's no income tax or anything to bring money into the education system. And you have these big cities like Spokane or Seattle or Tacoma that have taxes that are going to these schools. But then, what about all this area? We have people settling out here, and we have some settlers up here already in this time of period. But only the big cities are bringing income tax. Why might that be a problem for other schools? Anybody? Looking for your input here.
So wait, say that again.
So we have big cities like Seattle, Olympia, and Spokane that have an income tax that is putting money towards the schools. But you say you got another schoolhouse in Ellensburg, and they don't have money coming in. Why might that be a problem?
They may not be getting the same education that their schools are getting.
They're not getting the same education.
Just because of the proper funding.
Yeah.
They would need other avenues of revenue.
Yeah. We need some kind of revenue. So that's where we're at right when the progressive era starts. And then we have a man named John Rogers who comes around about 1895. Go ahead and write that down, John Rogers. That's going to be one of your vocab terms you need to know. John Rogers. And John Rogers was a Washington State legislator. And what he did was he brought something called the Barefoot Schoolboy Law. That's another one of your terms you're going to want to know, the Barefoot Schoolboy Law. And what that does is it creates the first Washington State tax to create revenue for schools. So now you've got those schools like in Ellensburg or, you know, a growing Walla Walla down in the southwest to have a little bit more revenue. And what that did is it said for every student in the census, you get $6 to the school in taxes. The state needs to supply $6 for every student that's in the school. And that eventually increased to $8 within a few years. And then a few years later, you're up to $10 per student in every school. So now you've got schools that are getting the same supplies and all the revenue that some, you know, say Seattle is getting per student. So, you know, that's how education is kind of starting to grow in Washington. And people really like this. People like this idea a lot, enough that actually John Rogers became the governor of Washington pretty much because he came up with this idea and they really liked it. And some other things that John Rogers came up with was this statement here. This was his idea for education. Can I have somebody volunteer to read this aloud in class? Go for it.
All common schools shall be taught in the English language, and instruction shall be given in the following branches, viz. Reading, penmanship, orthography, written arithmetic, mental arithmetic, geography, English grammar, physiology, and hygiene, with special reference to the effects of alcoholic stimulants and narcotics on the human system, history of the United States, and such other studies as may be prescribed by the Board of Education. Attention must be given to, during the entire course to the cultivation of manners, to the laws of health, physical exercise, ventilation, and temperature of the schoolroom.
So that's kind of different. That's not what we're used to, right? Does anybody know what ortho? I don't even know how to pronounce it. I've never heard it before. Orthography or orthography, maybe it's pronounced.
Orthography.
Orthography. Orthography. Anybody know what that means? That is it's spelling, right? It was demolished before. That's spelling, so that's, you know, your basic spelling and stuff. And what you don't see in this that he was also pushing for was 10 minutes of every week needed to be going towards learning respect for domestic animals and all living creatures, is how he put it. So let's kind of compare and contrast what education is today to what you see here. What are some similarities, some differences? Go ahead and talk about it in your groups.
That's really interesting, the effects of alcoholic stimulants and narcotics.
We kind of have that
18,
though, like,
18.
I was thinking the same thing though at that point in time. But we don't have penmanship. You know, they don't teach that. They taught it to
Us.
I mean, we learned it, but they don't teach it
They
anymore.
don't teach it anymore.
Do they teach cursive anymore?
Yeah.
Do they?
Ellensburg does.
There's so many kids in our classes now who don't even know.
I know. Physiology, hygiene, they teach that. And then you also said that they taught the animal welfare and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. I like that.
It's pretty similar. To ventilation is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, it does seem pretty similar, so.
Okay, let's go ahead and share with the class. What did you guys come up with? Let's say you guys are group 1.
To us, it seemed similar, you know, except that they have penmanship up there. We don't really have that any longer. Some school districts still do have it, but a lot don't. And then, of course, the animal welfare. That's something they don't teach in schools now, so.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Do you think that's something maybe we should still teach? You know, respect towards all living creatures. It's not something you really see anymore. It's
Well,
kind
you
of
teach, I guess they learn about respect to like each other as peers, but not really animals.
You might have a set of classroom rules that are understood or something. Usually you see respect on that, but never really talked about what it means or how it should be done. Maybe you talked about how it should be done, but not into the depth of 10 minutes a week, you know, not as 11th graders anymore. So, how about the first part of the sentence says all common schools should be taught in English. What do you think about that? Especially in this time period when you have a lot of people coming over from other parts of the world. You know, it's a growing Northwest, lots of job opportunities. We've got all the Japanese in like the salmon canneries and the you know, you guys are in Ellensburg and Cle Elum has the largest number of African Americans because they're the strike breakers up in the mines up in Roslyn and Cle Elum. So is it really fair that we're teaching only in English?
No.
Well, no, but in a way you have to think about the environment where we're at. I mean, if our jobs rely that you rely on English speaking, then yeah, you need to teach that so that way our students have a way to get employment. Now, nowadays, you know, it's a mix, you know, you need to be bilingual, but back then it was probably absolutely necessary that they knew English to be able to gain employment outside in the community.
And they need to be taught in other languages as well, though.
What was that?
Well, they need to be taught. They can't just be thrown into English just completely. They need to be taught in their other language, in their native language a little bit, at least. Or it's just, you know, it's just like you run into a wall.
Yeah, but that's how it used to be, and back then to get bilingual speakers, a lot of times it would cost more money, especially in small towns that you know, didn't have money for
I
that.
mean, it never would, yeah, but it's not an effective way to learn English.
Yeah, no, great, good thoughts, good thoughts. So, any last thoughts before we move on to that? Just how this is a different? No. Any questions on what we've covered so far on the barefoot schoolboy law? That's going to be kind of confusing.
What are alcoholic stimulants?
Alcoholic stimulants? So we're talking about how, especially during this era, you know, we've got a lot of women pushing for no alcohol because of the abuse at home and stuff. So I think we're pushing for, you look confused.
No, I was just angry.
You say that we drive you to
No, that's a great question though. So, we're trying to educate the students on what alcohol does to you and stuff. So that's also a little bit different, you know. I don't think it's probably, do you guys do that in any other classes or anything?
Health class.
Your
Plus you learn
health
about
class, yeah.
alcohol and
So it's still there, you can still see it. Okay, what I want you to do, yeah, go for
Sorry, I
it.
did have a quick question. So did they teach anything about human sexuality at that time? Like we have, did they even attempt to touch on that?
That's a great question. I would have to go look at that tonight and get back to you tomorrow on that because I don't know the answer to that. I obviously don't see it in that statement, but I don't know what John Rogers' thoughts on that were or what other educators' thoughts were. I couldn't tell you right now, but I'll look that up. Okay, any other last questions? Okay, so go ahead and get back into your groups again. And now earlier today you asked the question, what is education? So now I want you to more talk about and combine your thoughts into, no more than 3 sentences. What was education? And how does it compare to education today? So just kind of wrapping up everything we talked about, using what we talked about today. Go ahead and come up with, as a group, 1 to 3 sentences on what was education and how it compares to today.
and all this stuff that was relevant to the time.
So relevant practical knowledge.
Like the animal thing, obviously they mean their animals.
Penmanship is good. That can be learned.
Was this during time when Teddy Roosevelt was president? Or no?
No, this is before that.
I was gonna say, that would totally align with the animal thing, that would totally align with Teddy Roosevelt. So.
Yeah, no, this would be just before.
So what was it?
It's more
Practical, relevant knowledge is what education would be.
Okay, so let's just hear one good sentence for the sake of time from somebody. What the mutual thought was.
Education at that time was based on practical and relevant knowledge.
Practical and relevant knowledge. Maybe more like life skills and things like that. Yeah, for sure. Well, great job, guys. Thank you for participating in the discussion well, and we will see you tomorrow.